guys, I've had the Opsix for almost a year now, bought it last November, and I absolutely love this machine. I love the sounds that come out of it. Just a quick word about me. I have tended for a lot of my years to be a not follow the crowd person, not because I didn't want to, but because there's something in me wiring wise that just doesn't let me do it very often. So just to give you an example, about 8 years ago I decided to pick up a stringed instrument. I wanted to learn how to play violin, for example. However, I found out that violin players are like 10 to 1 to viola players, and viola is a little bit bigger, and I thought, let's learn the viola. So that didn't really pay off for me, but that's just an example of my mindset. If you are old enough to remember or have been a fan of the Chicago Bulls back in the 90s when they were on their run, obviously Michael Jordan was the big guy, the big name on that team. I loved Scottie Pippen. He was my favorite player. It wasn't even close. As a kid, I was a New York Mets fan in St. Louis, which was not a good combination. So those are just some examples of the ways that my brain seems to think sometimes. And I kind of feel that way about FM synthesis. It sort of has seemed to have been the, outside of its heyday, obviously, with the DX7 and in that era, just more of a backseat, more of a novelty kind of synthesis. And so maybe that's why I like it so well. Anyway, all that to say, I've got the Opsix. I love it. I love the ability to program it. I love the sounds that come out of it. It's amazing. I love everything that it does. But I made a mistake with it yesterday evening, and I wanted to share that with you guys so that perhaps you wouldn't follow me down the same road. So the only gripe I've had about this machine since I've had it, and I think it's probably a pretty common complaint, is just the key bed. The feel of the keys are pretty cheap, but more importantly, 37 keys is there's just not a lot you can do with that. And I know that the trend has been over the last few years to make things smaller and more compact to save people space in their studio. But I have a whole basement, so I want 61 keys. I'm sure many of you have seen this picture before of a prototype Opsix that was seen a few years ago at NAMM. I still drool over that photo. That's 61 keys and very beautiful. So at any rate, I recently thought, well, let's try to hook up to the Opsix from one of my 61 key keyboards and just see what happens, just to see if it makes any difference. That was my mistake. So it is like playing a whole new keyboard. You can't see it in this shot, but I have my Arturia, well, there's part of it, my Arturia key lab down here that is just, it's a tank of a keyboard. I love this thing, fully programmable. When I hooked it up to the Opsix for the first time last night, I was just crushed at how good the key action obviously always is on the Arturia. It's so nice to play. But I was crushed in realizing what the Opsix could be with an appropriate key bed in it. Of course, like many of you, I hope that KORG decides at one point to release an Opsix Mark II, at which point I will sell whatever I have to get one. A 61 key Opsix would just be dynamite. This is already one of my favorite keyboards in the studio. 61 keys with, a nice key bed, possibly aftertouch, would just put that right up at the top. So anyway, that is the mistake I made last night, was actually hooking these two together just to see what would happen. And it was as devastating as I was afraid it might be. Anyway, don't do that if you have an Opsix. Just play it like it is and be happy. But anyway, I'm going to tack a few sounds onto the end of this video, some of the stock sounds from the Opsix, just so you can hear what it sounds like. Of course, there was a software update sometime over the last year that added the ability for the Opsix to receive aftertouch signals. So many of the programs have aftertouch programmed into them, and there's some really cool sounds that come out of it. So I'm going to play a few of those for you on the way out. Hope you enjoy those, and I'll put a couple of my custom sounds in there as well. Anyway, if you choose to hook these two keyboards up, or anything with more keys and aftertouch than the Opsix has, you do so at your own peril, because you may be as dissatisfied as I am from now on. Also, for what it's worth, I do have the Opsix native software. KORG had a good deal for existing Opsix owners to buy that. So yes, I'm aware that I could have been doing that the whole time, but I love having the hardware. And so anyway, for whatever that's worth. Thanks again for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.